Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the second episode of our journey through the Book of Nâm. I've used this occasion to go a bit through chapter 2 in greater detail, and I hope you are also using the space between these episodes as a beautiful opportunity to go deeper into all the insights of this beautiful book. Today we'll continue to explore the essence of being human, the task of living, how our attitudes and behavior can reflect the red thread. And this is a beautiful linkage to the first session we had addressed at the previous episode. So this brings us to episode 2, Nâm Thinking. Personally, I may share that I was very curious about this somehow new terminology, Nâm Thinking. Why Nâm? I was familiar with the concept in a different context through some of the Sikh tradition of Sat Nam. Slowly I realized that this was something new, and slowly I started to felt and experience the value of a new vocabulary, sort of a freshness call for an open-ended approach that is not associated to dogmas and religions, and that was really joyful for me. So we'll go together in having a deeper look on this way of living that welcomes everyone in a very open and loving approach, where there is no space for separation, but rather unites us. At this stage, and this always has to be done, gratitude to Yoginâm. It's that brings us this message in such an open and carried with such an unconditional love that reach our hearts beyond our goods and bads, our perfections and imperfections, and enable us with this message, this approach that deeply touches us, our hearts, and enables us in our task of daily living in a more effective way, deeper way. At this stage, let me also welcome our colleagues in this adventure, my good friends León and Hubertus. Morning, Hubertus.
Good morning, Mario and everybody.
Hi, León. Good morning.
Morning. Very nice to be here again.
And yes, let's go directly to the matter. We will start with León. I believe, León, you'll give us a sort of a introductory framework to chapter 2, Nâm Thinking. The floor is yours, León.
Okay, thank you, Mario, and again, good day, everyone. I think that one thing which is important to emphasize when we speak of the work of Yoginâm, of his work, is that he communicates from another state of being. We speak of awareness, we speak of this realization of the transcendental nature of living, And Yoginam, through his life and living, has attained that kind of state, that type of state. And he expresses through his work that state, and his aim is to trigger us and to provide us with the tools for opening ourselves to that state, to that natural state, which is something that we have to do ourselves. And this is really what his work consists of, what he tries to do. And so the terminology that he uses and the perspectives that he gives, he calls them skillful means. So they are tools that he gives that you can use, and it kind of helps you to change your perception. So they are for him not so much concepts or ideas. They are tools to open to the perception, to the potential of living. And so when we dive into this work, this Nâm Thinking, basically we have to be ready to make this quantum leap that we spoke of before, to allow this shift in your perception, this change of paradigm to occur, and kind of you have to make yourself ready for that. And so the first movement in this Nâm Thinking, in the way of Nâm, is what we referred to already last time, peaceful acknowledgement. So you pay your respect to all and everything that is. So this is the totality, this is your sharing in a totality, this is your being that totality, what he calls allness of all. And then the term that Yoginam introduces in the Book of Nâm is this what is. And what is a term that you can say, you can ascribe everything to what is. So if you would use for a moment more theistic terminology, you may say everything is God and there's nothing but God. It is that type of what is. The what is like that. And this is in itself a very powerful state of perception, very powerful state of mind. Now this affirmation, what is also important is that it exists only in application. So it comes expressed only in attitudes and behavior. Otherwise, it is just an idea, and you may understand the idea in a way, you may not understand the idea, but the point is it is not an idea. It is something that has to be applied to be real. So what happens to life when you do this? Yoginam says life will become a gradual increasing attunement. So all phenomena of life assume a transcendental quality when you have that orientation of peaceful acknowledgement. And that means also that everything that happens to you will start receiving a different meaning. And also because of this, but this meaning can only occur, this different meaning, when you practice it, when you bring that to practice. Otherwise that meaning will not occur. So there's no need to believe in anything, no need to adopt an ideology, to become a member of anything. It is not a matter of initiation into secret lore. It is bringing it to practice, and anybody with whatever beliefs can do that. So this describes a little bit this peaceful acknowledgement, your relation, some principles in your relation to the world, to your sense of the world. And then what is this I? What is this this sense of I? What Yoginam calls the I world. We spoke of it last time. So what is very much key to Nâm Thinking is that you and what you are as I world, you are only experience. You are a totality of experience. So you're not a unit that has experience, you are experience, and you are experience in many different dimensions. And Yoginam has developed the C-Web in this context, where he again provides as a skillful means this view that you exist in 4 dimensions of experience: body experience, mind experience, soul experience, and spirit experience. And We will in a future sessions explore much more about this C-web, about this aspect of I world. So then this aspect of attunement, and the kind of the way of attuning in I world. One aspect is in Nâm Thinking, which is important also to kind of embrace, is that living is not linear, like with a beginning and an end, as we sometimes, seem to perceive it like that. In Nâm Thinking, living is seen as circular, without a beginning and an end. And I world is constantly creating and recreating itself through cause and consequences that occur through the attitude and behavior of this I world, of yourself. And so this is actually also the topic of the next chapter in the book, is indeed the ethics of cause and consequence. So we'll go into that. In this chapter, Yoginâm provides some kind of definition of attunement, and he says attunement is an advanced state of human living, but attunement is also the endeavor to reach that advanced state. And he says attuning is like opening windows to allow the essence of life to express itself in I world, in what you are. And this kind of attunement will lead to well-being, and well-being is a state of unconditional contentment. And then he brings in later in the chapter the aspect of, if you will, aspect of infinity. And he says, I world is sharing in all dimensions it consists in, and is sharing in infinite potentiality. So as resonance, I world is sharing in infinite resonance. And this infinite potentiality is constantly here and now. Every moment is again a moment of infinite potentiality, which then comes to expression. And in I world, what you ask, I world is what Yoginâm calls a closure of infinite potentiality. So you may say you originate in an infinite potentiality, and in I world you are a closure of that. This is a natural state of living. But what happens when you have very strong opinions, convictions, emotions, etc., which you very strongly identify with, it's kind of imposing on what is. This, Yoginâm said, is a further closure of the closure. So you add layers of closure to your living. And these layers are basically unnecessary to add such layers of closure. So Yoginâm calls this the act of I, which is this act of imposing on what is, which leads to kind of erroneously considering yourself as a certain identity of what you are, what your life is. And so this is, again, this closure of a closure. And in that sense, maybe I would take the liberty to express, to reflect a little bit on some, basically contemporary also societies and culture, where actually you see very much this emphasis on identity, where kind of there is some kind of pattern active of providing, assigning a sort of highest value to what you as an individual identify yourself with, to whatever characteristics that is. This focus on identity, and in that language itself, it seems that seems all quite all right, quite understandable. However, what Nâm Thinking, I would say, demonstrates is that basically it's the wrong direction. Because you create kind of a culture which is focusing on the closure of the closure, which puts highest values in the limitation of the limitation. Whereas it is not about your identity, what you identify yourself with. It is about this connecting to your transcendental nature, to awareness, this kind of reopening to this infinite potentiality. And that is where where well-being is kind of located, where it resides, where well-being occurs. So from Nâm Thinking, you would emphasize to take that kind of direction. And this aspect of infinite potentiality and closure is, in a way, it feels kind of abstract. And it reminded me of a story that Yoginâm once told me, and where he said, imagine yourself standing on a hill and you oversee a big forest, a very large, wide forest, beautiful forest. And then you start walking down the hill, and at some point you only see the first line of the trees, and you don't see anymore, perceive the forest as such. And then you walk further down the hill, and at some point you only see a tree, and you can only see that one tree. And this shows that this is this closure of the closure, and you cannot even see anymore that there are other trees, and you don't even see anymore that there is actually a wider forest. And so this focus, this act of I, is this act where basically you begin to consider that tree to be the reality of what is, to be kind of the representing the truth. And what is the way? This way of Nâm is to, even though sometimes it's natural that you have to focus on a tree or whatever, in a metaphorical sense or in a literal sense, when you need to cut some wood for the stove, for example. But it is about reminding yourself, remembering that this forest is there, that this tree is part of a wider forest, that there's much more than that. And it may even be at times walking back on the hill to just perceive the forest and be remembered, the reconnecting to that awareness that there is a forest. And then you might even say, when you watch the forest, that you can see that there's also a sky, and you cannot understand the sky through the forest. And you look further and you see that there's also a sun, and it goes further and further, and you realize that you cannot really be fully conscious of all that. So it's beyond you. And this is what this the kind of the movement of Nâm is about, is reopening, this reconnecting to this state of awareness, to being aware of that forest. So this also shows that Nâm thinking is not a binary thinking. It is not a thinking of or. It is a thinking of and. So it's an embracing of and. It is never denying or rejecting the other. It is never blindly fighting the other. It is not a morality of good and bad. It is an affirmation. It is an affirmation of the other, in which you focus on an ever-increasing attunement. So in this aspect is this task which Yoginâm sees is the task of living, which is the movement from ignorance to wisdom. That movement depends on this degree of attunement. And again, the act of I closes attunement. It doesn't make kind of dissolves the openness for attunement, because it brings I world within the closure, which is then considered as real and as the truth and as true. So what Yoginâm expresses as the ignorance of Nâm infancy, the state of Nâm infancy, is a state of living in an illusion which you assume to be a truth. And the wisdom of Nâm maturity, of advanced attunement, you realize the illusory nature of life as a representation of what is. Now, so when Yoginâm brings in this illusion, it is important, and he says it in the book, that it is an illusion doesn't mean that it lacks value. It is not a substitute of what could be real. So there's not this kind of nihilism of, well, it's all illusion. No, it is ill illusion, but it is about awareness of that. And what is also important, that the illusion on its own level can be very real. So you could say, as he very often says, a door is, in a very quantum physical kind of sense, maybe in the end, a space of emptiness. And you could say it's an illusion, but when you bump your head to the door, you will feel that pain, you will feel that door. So on its own level, you do have to deal, although it is an illusion, you do have to deal with it as some kind of reality. But he says that being an illusion means that it can be managed. So it allows you to manage your world of experience. And how do you manage it? You manage it by changing perspective, by opening to awareness. And this changing perspective, this opening to awareness, this is what Nâm Thinking facilitates, and what Yoginâm tries to describe in this second chapter. So I would leave it at that as my reading of this very intriguing chapter. Reading the chapter, it really reads like a movement through a perception.
Yes.
Not like developing an argument, a movement to a perception, and it is not an overstatement to say that every sentence is elemental that you read there. So comes very recommended. So thank you.
Thank you, Leon. No, thank you. It was so inspiring to listen to you. It's like you are opening windows, doors into a sort of a vastness and freshness that it's so enlightening even now as I hear you and I hear the words of the Book of Nâm. It was interesting also the slight relation you established also with one of the questions we had in the previous episode by Alexander, relating to this attitude of saying yes, and to that attitude, and now it relates rather to these open windows into a state of attunement in which you keep saying yes to that approach and attitude. So essentially, it's very interesting, Leon, that we are here in a sort of out of an intellectual interest, talking about Nâm Thinking, but that the relationship to our art of living is so clearly established. I would say that,
On this, yes, that is interesting that you refer to that question indeed, because that says about, you say indeed yes to everything that comes. And I think it was about, should you go around chasing everything?
Yeah, the yes man thing.
And saying yes. But actually, it is the affirmation, I would say, as an attitude. It's an attitude of yes. So actually, you don't. It's just not just saying yes to whatever comes. Actually, you already said yes before it came.
Yes.
So everything that comes is received in an environment of yes. And I would say that is the still deeper level of where the affirmation is taking place. And I think maybe Alexander with that question wanted to trigger us to
to go a bit deeper in that sense. So it's also not part of that direct linear approach. It's actually building a sort of a fertile ground of an open window approach where this magic of attunement can take place. Yes. Thank you, Leon. Speaking about Alexander, I think it's time we all enjoy his beautiful voice and his nice way of transmitting what's in Nâm Thinking, chapter 2 of Book of Nâm. So I will invite you to join me on some extractions from chapter 2.
Nâm Thinking. With Nâm Thinking, the red thread is presented in the language of the 21st century. Nâm is the way of reflecting the red thread in attitudes and behavior that is rooted in the very essence of being human. Nâm is a way of living that supports the gradual unveiling of the potential of living. The first step is peaceful acknowledgement of the implications of the red thread. Such peaceful acknowledgement is rooted in Nam, which is the movement of essentially affirming. Affirming happens with attitudes and behavior. When it is approached from the perspective of Nam, life becomes a course of gradual increasing attunement. Allness of all is like nectar for attracting attention. It is referring to an unknowable openness. In Nam terminology, it is therefore referred to with the term "what is." Everything can be ascribed to what is. It evokes the idea of a potentiality that is in a continuous state of becoming. Human living is experience. There is not a unit that has experience. There is only I world of experience. Experience is what I world is. Experience is what is and I world. Experience emerges as witnessing. Acting, thinking, feeling, and desiring are the various intensities of witnessing. The essence as what is brought to life and peacefully acknowledged in every act, thought, emotion, desire, opinion, or belief. Attunement, as a word, indicates both the advanced state of human living and the endeavor to reach an advanced state. Such advanced states are recognized by the emergence of unconditional happiness, joy, and bliss, regardless of human preferences and aversions. With Nam as the central pole of orientation, all phenomena of life assume a transcendental quality. They themselves transform themselves into the stepping stones for increasing attunement. Attunement through Nam is like opening windows that allows the essence of living to express itself in the I world that is being lived. I world is infinitely sharing in all the dimensions that it consists in. Being human is a closure of infinite potential. Ideals, opinions, and beliefs are further closures of this closure. It is the act of I that creates a closure of illusion. This is a natural aspect of human living. In I world, this is considered as my life. Behind my, however, there is no possessor. My life is a complete illusion. The realization that one is not a separate unit, but a sharing in infinity that is being closed down to what one erroneously considers as a fixed identity, is a cause for far-reaching consequences. The cause of phenomena and circumstances in the world does not lie in a separate transcendental realm. Dualities are necessary for guiding human imagination. For opening in Nam, dichotomies are an obstruction. Nam transcends binary thinking. The and of Nam thinking is never denying. It is never rejecting or blindly fighting the other. Rather, in peaceful acknowledgement, it affirms the other both in phenomena and in thoughts, while searching in this witnessing ever closer attunement. In what is, in every instant, a new instant is discovered, which thereby becomes a new emergence of what is. Through cause and consequence, I-world is the creator of itself. Optimally expressing the red thread is the most beneficial way. It merely requires a peaceful acknowledgement of what is. The Nam affirmation is the fundamental key. It is the peaceful acknowledgement of what is. It is also accepting the responsibility of what is. The I-world of human living is a range within infinite resonance, and as a range, it shares integrally in infinite resonance. Though I-world is closure of infinite resonance, and the worldview that emerges in witnessing is an illusion that is emerging in imagination, it is from the human perspective utterly real. It is particularly because the world is an illusion that it can be managed. Being an illusion is the quality of human living. This is the wisdom that is hidden in living. In Nam thinking, during the course of living, human living transforms from demonstrating ignorance to realizing wisdom and well-being. This transformation is the natural task of human living, with which human life fulfills its niche in living.
Yes, always so inspiring, isn't it? Every time we go back to it, it comes in different angles, new insights, and I think now is a very good timing to invite Hubertus. So much about living, and Hubertus has been our translator of Nâm Thinking into practical life. Hubertus, we are all waiting for you. What will you bring us today?
Well, I think it is appropriate to start with the words, I don't know. I have enjoyed the introduction of León, and first, before I start translating it a little bit to whatever I perceive as daily life, I think it is nice to give the suggestion that this chapter is kind of an overview of the complete book. And we hear the remarks of people saying that the texts are abstract and difficult to digest. So my task is to give it kind of translation, but I think it's also nice if you sit in the car and you play the recording of this broadcast and the broadcast before without having a visual perception of it, but just by listening to it and give it the opportunity to, so you allow it to resonate in you. And then you start automatically digest its content. And I've been trying that with the introduction of León of last time. And I must say there's so much in it. And if you chew on it while you're driving or while you're sitting on the couch at home, drops of meaning filter through because you automatically start linking it to daily life. So this is actually something I would like to say before I give my contribution of today. This I don't know that I started with is good to affirm in that sense that if you read it or listen to the explanation, so moments of meaning, they emerge. And these moments of meaning is actually, they are valuable for that moment. They are applicable to daily life, these moments of meaning. It's not necessary to grasp it completely, but it's better to digest it slowly. When I was preparing for today, I found it difficult to take one part of the text and translate it to daily life experience, because it touches upon everything. And then I recalled a movie I saw about this man who brought Zen Buddhism to Japan. The Master Dogen, I think, was the name. And so I'm going to try to link the text to an image I got from that movie. And because what is it about? It's about for me, it's about taking responsibility for the fact that you are there and that you are living, and you don't know anything about it. You just experience living without really grasping it. You're standing in front of the tree and you say, that's what I am. That's my experience. This is my world. And then you forget all about the forest and about the environment and about the sky and the sun and the planet and the universe. And then beyond physical experience, you just see that concrete closure, the expression of the allness of all in front of you. And you say, this is it. Well, and then it's not just a static situation. You're relating to what you are perceiving. And in the way you are relating to what you're perceiving, you're seeing a tree or you're seeing somebody in front of you, you are actually creating that experience. I world is creating itself. You are the cause and the consequence of. And so I world is the expression of the way you are a cause. As a consequence, it's an expression. So, and while you're perceiving, while you're witnessing experience, while you're witnessing somebody or a situation or a tree or whatever, this moment, you don't know how you are causing it. So I think it is good to take a kind of a mantra, or how you call it, a remembrance, for you to open up this moment of what is, this expression, this perception, and open it into a realm of potential, a realm of possibilities. So, and that's why I would like to introduce today, to start using the word recreation. You know the word recreate. We like to recreate constantly. Recreate. Yes, so we are continuously creating. We are never ever recreating. We are continuously creating. The word recreation is actually an illusion. We are never recreating. But as long as we habitually create, we keep on creating in the same way the reality we are living in. So I think it is nice to start accepting the fact that whatever that you are perceiving, you can say of it, it is what it is. Okay? We want to say it is this or it's that. No, it is what it is. And this is the first affirmation. Peacefully acknowledging that it is what it is. And then taking up responsibility by adding to it that you are doing it. You are not just recreating it, or it's not happening like this and you have nothing to do with it. You are creating it. It's a continuous movement of creation, and you are doing it. And what you're perceiving is the expression of the way you are doing it. So later on in the book, we will dive into CWEB and the dimensions of experience, the sharing in spirit, body, mind, and soul, and the way you are expressing the allness of all in a habitual way. So then you will find out how you are doing it. And when you know how you are doing it, you can, with attitude and behavior, start to change the way you are doing it in an ever increasing attunement, like Leon said beautifully. And then now I want to introduce this image that I got from that movie. And this is the poetic expression that we are able, like a cup of tea that is able to reflect the moon on a beautiful clear night. If you have a cup of tea, you can see the moon being reflected in the water of the cup of tea. But as soon as you look to the moon, you get in the way. You see, you bend over the cup of tea and you want to see the moon in it, and then you see yourself. So this is what we are continuously doing. We are identifying what we are witnessing into a kind of idea of what it is. And as soon as we do that, we are closing down the closure, the expression of the allness of all. So the challenge actually is allowing life to happen, and the closing down, the natural closing down, to allow the natural closing down to happen in daily life situation. In whatever situation you are, it is what it is. And if you want to increase in attunement, you have to find out how you are doing that, how you're doing that. So in that sense, the perceiver, you, has to disappear in the perception. You are not somebody witnessing a world. You are the witnessing. You are what you are perceiving. That's what you are. So if you stop closing down by identifying whatever you are seeing, but you allow it to happen, you're just perceiving, you disappear and the moon starts emerging. So the allness of all is expressing itself in a natural way. Now let's make it concrete. I don't know how it is with you, but like most people, I am in a relationship, and I have people around me that I am meeting and that I'm working with, living with. And then sometimes you have a disagreement, no? So in this disagreement that is happening, you're witnessing a disagreement, you identify yourself with this disagreement. So then I have let's say, an idea about what is right and what is wrong. And the other one has an idea what is right and what is wrong. And then we start to interact in a way that the other becomes responsible for the state of frustration in this conflict, for instance. And then the other is no longer an expression of the allness of all. We forget that we are actually part of a forest, that is part of an environment, that is part of a planet, etc., etc. But I am standing in front of a tree. I create a kind of distance. I make the other something else. I'm no longer sharing and participating in the allness of all. And then I can say, you are angry, so you are making me angry. But actually, it is what it is. There is an expression. Without identifying it, without judging it, this expression is there. And if you just look at this expression, you can allow this expression to happen. And then find out how you're doing that. How are you doing this expression? How do you create this conflict? So in this sense, we can stop recreating a conflict by stopping identifying ourselves as somebody who's having a fight with somebody else. Just affirm that it is what it is and find out how you're doing it. I think this peaceful acknowledgement of what is one side of a coin. You cannot say it is what it is, so this conflict isn't there. No, it is there. But by peacefully acknowledging the fact that it is what it is, and then taking up the responsibility by finding out how you are doing it instead of how the other is doing it, you start to be making yourself responsible to create a different flow, to create a different reality. I think in this simplicity, we can find out that when we are standing in front of the tree that León is talking about, by recalling that it is a forest in an environment, etc., etc., we can see this allness of all in the tree. So this is the change of perception, the change by attitude and behavior. The change is that you start seeing the allness of all in the tree, that you start seeing the allness of all in the other, that you start seeing the allness of all in you, that you start seeing the whole situation without making a distinction between you and the other as an expression of the allness of all. And then when you get out of the way, it just happens. And then after some time to breathe, then this situation will become will get a different meaning. All kinds of meanings. I cannot tell what kind of meaning it will become. You see, you don't know. But you stop interfering with the situation by dissecting yourself as a kind of identity that is separate from it.
Wow, Hubertus, this is so inspiring, and I was particularly inspired by your words of identification. Yes, when that attachment to I leads you to a personal identification. I've been often myself wondering in some of experiences, attitudes, programs that I see on myself. Is that really me? Is that the I believe I am? Or is just an illusion of a possible identification that takes place, perhaps led by my ego that wants to feel it at the personal level? How will you see that?
Well, every moment, when I was younger, I read that if you look in the mirror, you can see all kinds of faces. I found it very interesting to explore that. So I started looking in the mirror. And then there were moments that I became scared of my own reflection. Because as soon as I stopped keeping myself the way I would like to see myself, meaning started to shift. So I started to see different faces. And in the end, when I got through all these turbulence of fascinations and all these things, I just saw a face. And it was no longer my face, or it was no longer a good face or a bad face or a scary face or a beautiful face or whatever face. It was just a face.
Yes.
And the interesting thing is that I was there all the time, but I stopped doing something.
Yes.
You see, every time, as soon as I think this is this, or this is that, or this is me, or this is the definition of the situation, I'm imposing an idea on the expression of life itself. But by imposing it, I am co-creating the perception of, and that is taking place. So what I'm seeing is actually a reflection of my attitude and my behavior.
Yes.
But I keep on projecting it on the other or something else, and I say this is this and this is that. But it is reflecting my attitude. It is reflecting my behavior. So if I stop having an idea about something, then it doesn't mean that reality is going away.
Perhaps on the opposite.
So I think Yoginam once said to me, Maya, the illusion is what you are doing by identifying.
Yes, yes. It's so interesting, Hubertus, this issue of identification. And perhaps I can refer to León. Maybe when we are looking the tree, so often I've seen myself there. I'm looking at the tree and I'm identifying only by looking at the tree. And I'm imposing a sort of a self-limitation to not see all the forest. And actually, when you just let go, the forest is there, because the forest is the tree and the tree is the forest to some extent. How will you see that, León?
No, I had to think of this the story that Hubertus brought about, more or less about kind of conflicting situation, right? Because it is in a way easy to speak of harmony, but what about the conflicting situations? And I think in this attitude of living Nam, it doesn't mean that you won't be finding yourself in situations where there is kind of a conflicting resonance going on. You may have a discussion with somebody about a certain topic, and you can participate in a discussion. It is not that you kind of remain passive in all the situations. But what already creates a difference is that when you are in a, let's say, conflicting situation, is this awareness that on from another level that it is actually an illusion. Although, again, on the level of the conflict, okay, you have this conflicting views or what, but I think it already releases a lot of tension and energy, let's say, by having that kind of awareness. And I think also it will, basically, you would have an intent of harmonization. So because you do not necessarily identify with the conflict as such, maybe in the moment itself, there may be a little bit of that in there.
Of course, we all been there. Yes.
You wouldn't be continuing to identify with that. And so basically, in terms of resonance, this releases a lot of conflicting resonance, let's say, because it doesn't linger so much. So yeah, and that creates kind of an overall field, you could say, of resonance, which is a kind of an harmonization. And then I think already lots of events in your life will go through that filter of this harmonizing filter, basically. So it goes back to that identification with that. Maybe you had a very strong view in the discussion, and you also know it's a view that you felt was your responsibility to express because you are a participant in the discussion, and you participate, but it's not necessarily that you would endlessly identify yourself with that, and willingness to change perspective, to shift so I think it's also much easier to identify with other people's views, because basically you're kind of curious and open to what that shows about what is that you couldn't see. So I think these type of elements create this kind of openness also in relationships and in your environment.
Thank you, León. It's I've seen myself so much, and in those two situations, the one where you cannot detach yourself and keep the more non-identified version, and the moments you can actually be so much more interested in open the windows to what's coming from the other side, that you start to establish the end, that you start in that peaceful acknowledgement and in that affirmation. And actually it does not mean that a certain tension is not there, but you observe it without identification, and it's like you mobilize a sort of a block of pure energy that just keeps expanding, just keeps creating the end, and not this or that. Yes. Thank you so much. I believe in this very nice tone and short discussion, we're approaching the end of today's session. I will, in any case, would like to ask Hubertus and León if there's any sort of a final sharing. We could be here. Now I feel we are getting to that level of the conversation. We just need a nice tea and we could be here for the rest of our day. But perhaps, Hubertus, any last insight sharing you'd like to establish at this moment?
Yeah, I think the last part can also be said now, in that sense that if you do, I just emphasized stop identifying in that sense, but it is much more than that, because it is also you're always resonating in that sense. So what are you contributing in that? So expressing the allness of all. So let's say in this intent of this endeavor of attuning, and then becoming more attuned, it's also a way of creating, not just stopping it, but also contributing, in that sense that beauty is a very important element of life. So becoming a co-creator of beauty is maybe an uplifting idea. So that if you are in a situation of conflict, it is not, and then knowing that it's an expression of the allness of all, and the other you are seeing is also an expression of the allness of all, in that sense. But it helps also to if your life is an expression of the allness of all, and in the more poetic terms, as Leon said last time, that the experience is the face of the beloved, then it is nice to show the beloved something beautiful. So as an extra element of this bouillabaisse, I had to give it a beautiful taste. It's also nice to have the effort to make the best of every situation. You see, because we are human beings, and we have to orient ourselves in the way we act and speak and think and want. All these things we are cultivating continuously. So to put in there an infusion of beauty as a project for the rest of your life, to keep on beautifying, how you say this, to color your perception with beauty, as an extra ingredient, so that life has a beautiful experience of itself. I think that will be nice.
Thank you, Hubertus. Let's continue nurturing that secret garden of beauty. I believe I can thank you so much for your contribution, for your insights. I believe we can leave it here. I hope that these sessions, to some extent, obviously they are not the end. This is just a couple of reference points to encourage you to join your own experience, your own insights on the reading of the Book of Nâm. I myself am doing it now in preparation of these sessions, and find it an amazing adventure, that actually you just go back to things you read and you read it now in a different way, because that magic of that movement is always there. And I would like to invite you all to perhaps, in advance of the next session, it's a beautiful challenge to go again to the chapter we'll be discussing, and in that sense be even farther inside these sessions. Thank you both, my partners in crime. Thank you everyone attending this session. I will just like to outline that in our outro, we also have the references to the Nâm Academy, where you can find more information about this. We will be publishing there the replay of this session. We also have a Telegram chat that we're keeping having an open attitude and an open invitation for interaction. You are all invited to join us in these both platforms, because we are you and you are we. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
great joy.